So welcome to series 3 or episode 3 or number 3 of this Finding series. It's not something that I decided to do, it's something that just happened. And the other thing that just kind of happened was the fact that the last blog entry I did, or the last article I wrote, took a lot of doing. I think really because there was a lot of information there, and I really wanted to try and put it across so people going through the similar or the same kind of experiences can really resonate with it. And it's always difficult to do that because, you know, what we're going through in life can be or is very personal. And really what I want to do is just give you a bit of an update on what's going on. And you know, if you're going through similar kind of things, and there's quite a lot of things I need to confirm and just really just get out in the open first of all before we carry on, in terms of what's been happening. One of the things I did, and I know a lot of people when they're going through struggles of life, everyone goes through struggles, but when those struggles are because of your habits and you keep repeating the same patterns, that's when you realize you've got to do something about it. And that's really where I was. And one of the things that I did about two or 3 years ago, I went for like psychotherapy, or went to see a therapist. Big burly guy who was in the army. I thought that'll do. That's who I need, someone like that. And I went and we spoke about, you know, the kids, and we spoke about my mum dying, and it was okay, but it didn't really I didn't really feel I was getting anywhere. And sometimes when you decide, okay, let's sort this out, let's get some therapy, you've really got to dig in and you've got to really be honest with yourself. And one of the things that I've heard from a lot of people when they've gone through this process is the therapist tries to take them back to childhood. And my thing about childhood was, my childhood, don't go there, mate, because my childhood was perfect. And if you rock the boat, then we're going to fall out. And that's a lot of people get to that position. Because I'll tell you this right from the start, my parents, loving, decent, honest, hardworking, wonderful people. And being able to say, or being open to the concept that the trouble or the struggles that we're going through is because of childhood is extremely difficult to come to terms with. So you've got to be open to that fact, and you've got to really look back and look at, what did we go through as kids? What were the things, what were the triggers, what were the things that triggered us, and what coping mechanisms did we put in place as kids that those mechanisms are still there as adults that no longer serve us. And I think if you're going through the similar thing, or if you're sick and tired of having the same life and going through the same cycles, the same self-destructive, repetitive cycles of the past, you've got to go there and you've got to investigate it, and you've got to be open to the fact. But you've got to come to the realization yourself. You can't just say, okay, let's go back. What I did for many, many months, even years, even since seeing my original therapist, was a case of me going, okay, mate, unravel it, go back, what happened, go back, be honest. You know, because when we go back, when we look, you know, retrospectively, we always put those rose-tinted glasses on. We go, oh, my childhood was fantastic, it was great. And it really was. I mean, I can remember the feeling, so many feelings of just feeling so safe and secure and fantastic. But those times where you didn't, okay, that's when the coping mechanisms kick in. And they're deep-rooted subconscious things. So that's kind of what I want to say to anybody watching this, I always try and resonate with the guys, okay, because guys, ladies, if you're watching this, we're all in the same boat, okay, but ladies, you have a deeper emotional connection with yourself. Most women are, you know, or the majority of women are a lot more intelligent than men, certainly from an emotional and a psychological perspective, okay. Men, you know, we have many scars on our knuckles because we just go through life, you know, and we end up dragging our knuckles on the floor. Okay, you know what I mean? And we become more and more primal in our quest to survive. Okay, and that's what happens. We, you know, as men, we put those big shields up, and you know what it does is the more of a barrier we put these barriers up. Me personally, I did it because I felt vulnerable, and the most ridiculous thing ever is the fact that we put these barriers up to the people that we love, and God, that destroys people, and it destroys relationships. But that's what we do, and guys, you know, you either lash out at other people or you lash out at yourself. And we know, you know, suicide rates right now are off the scale. It's mainly males. You know, I knew that from dealing with the police. I mean, crikey, I left the police 23 years ago. 23 years ago. And, you know, every suicide I went to was a male. You know, cutting people down, and all the sort of the harsh realities of life was always caused by males. And that's what happens, unfortunately. And it's just getting worse because, you know, life is great. Let me tell you, life is great. It's fantastic. There's so many great things out there. What isn't great is the way we cope with things. And again, those coping mechanisms don't serve us. So let me just tell you what's happened. So what's happened with me is I decided I went through everything that I've been through, reviewing everything, going over situations and circumstances. My youngest memory, and I don't know if you're going to believe this, I don't know if you can resonate with this, but my youngest memory of being alive is crawling at about 6 months old. Now, I said, you know, is that because I was triggered? Is that because I was going through stress and I was trying to, you know, was there something going on? And I spoke about this today, and it was like, no, the actual feeling that I've got is really positive. People were talking about me because I was just starting to walk. Well, I was actually crawling on the floor with this cream brush, and I pulled myself up a table leg, like a little coffee table, and I put my palms on it, and I'm wobbling around, okay, like little toddlers do, okay, and I put the brush in my mouth, and I'm thinking, oh, that's really nice, because I was teething. Now that is, I don't know if that's a false memory, I don't know if that's real, but I know the feeling's real, okay, and so there we go. And so I'm going back over all those circumstances, and what I would say to you is, if you're thinking about going to see a therapist, or if you want to get out of and break those habits of what you've been doing, you've got to just go back and relive it. And as you go back, because if you go and see a therapist, they're going to want to take you back to your childhood, okay? And if you're not going to go there, then it's going to be a long, old, drawn-out process. And here's something else that I looked at this week. My first therapy session was booked in with this particular therapist, and her husband was ill, and she had to take him to hospital, and I've not heard anything since, and she said it was serious, so I'm thinking the worst in terms of that, but so she cancelled. Now, my good friend, who I've been in business with for a long time, is an NLP practitioner, and I reached out to him because he said there's a difference between therapy and NLP. Okay, so psychotherapy. Psychotherapy, they will take you back to your childhood. They will talk about it, and it will be a process. Okay, and I thought, yeah, okay, well, I understand that because I've done it. Okay, I've been on that process, and at the time, it didn't really. I won't say it didn't really resonate, but, you know, I wasn't in a position where I really wanted to change. I really wanted to do it. I was kind of trying to be as honest as possible, but yet again, you know, the defences are still up. Okay, so you're going, yes, I'm being honest, but really your subconscious is going, we ain't going there. Let's put that barrier up. Okay, and it takes a long time, so that's why it's a process. NLP I've seen people in NLP, Neuro-Linguistic Programming, and I've seen people in there, or I've been party to group therapy sessions where somebody has said, yeah, I'll volunteer, and they've gone through a process and they've been in tears. And I've witnessed that in some of the groups I've been in. And this is me, okay? Guys in tears, I'm going, okay, guys in tears, well done. How long have we got before we go? And being quite cold to it. And I know a lot of people who know me will say there's a side to me that is cold. I've got a side to me that's a complete bastard, that is unemotional, that almost looks narcissistic, and yet it's anything far from the truth. It's a defense mechanism to cover up my vulnerabilities. And I know that. So anyway, we're doing this session, and I contact Paul. In fact, I'm going to do a testimonial after this for Paul, because what happened to me was completely what's the word? Unexpected. And we did what we call parts integration. And whenever I've been triggered, or whenever I've been kicking off and being an arsehole, like we all are sometimes, people will say to me that you've got a good side and a bad side, a good John and a bad John, okay? And the trouble is, when you've got that when you've got that dynamic going on, the person that you're with sometimes doesn't know which John is going to be present, and it's a shit feeling, because people are walking on eggshells, and that's kind of what we kind of experienced sometimes as kids. What's the feeling going to be today? And so we did this parts integration where he had my hands out, and if you've ever done NLP, you'll know what I mean. You have both your hands out like this, and in one hand was good John, and he was the young kid who was going through trauma, and the bad John, the angry knuckle dragger, for want of a better word, okay, the guy who's got weights in his hand and he's trying to mask everything by being the manly, okay, and if anyone comes at him, he just attacks them, okay, and he's fighting all the time, all right. And we got these two characters in my hand, and we did a technique where we spoke to them, and it was incredible, because it was almost like you had a direct route from your conscious mind into your subconscious. And my overriding feeling, we did lots of other things, there was a lot of tears in there, and there was a lot of kind of revelations about that, but my overriding feeling when I've got good John and bad John is that these two have never met. They've never met each other, and they didn't know each other existed, and that was profound, fucking profound, I tell you. Paul said, sometimes you'll get a good response, and sometimes you'll get an average response, and sometimes you get something that's profound, and that was profound. And before that happened, I mean, I never suffer with sleep problems, but literally I had a cough, which I said I think is a psychosomatic cough, because it's like a tickly cough. It sort of nestles itself in the top of my lungs here, and when I lay down or try and go to sleep, it activates. And I've had it for a long time, and of course, in typical man fashion, you don't do anything about it. You see all these adverts for go to the doctors because it could be cancer, and I'm going, no, it's not cancer, it's nothing, because nothing comes up, there's no burning, but it's just a constant all that sort of thing all the time. And I had a spell where I didn't actually sleep for 6 days straight. Night time, I was laid awake, coughing. I'd get up, make a cup of tea, go back, drink the tea, cough, get up, watch telly, and it was just like that. And before I knew it, it was like 7 o'clock in the morning. It was like, it's another day, okay. And Paul said, if you start to do this process, things like that will go away, and you will sleep after the therapy session. He said you will sleep. And I don't actually remember what happened, because all I remember is waking up in my armchair this morning, having had probably 8 or 9 hours sleep and no coughing. And I look back and I go, how long have I been harbouring these programs that don't work? How many relationships have I gone through that I've sacrificed and fucked up over the years? All of them. How many times have I gone into business and done extremely well? You know, my best business was my property developing business, simply because the numbers were huge. You know, investing hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds and eventually dollars, because I invested over in Florida, and self-sabotaging things. I mean, obviously I know I did go through 9/11 and that kind of knackered things up, but what do you do afterwards? You know, after the event, what do you do? And that tells you a lot about your coping mechanisms and what you've got and the programs that you've got. So kind of that's where we are right now. And the other thing I'm looking at as well, which is kind of interesting, is the fact that sometimes fate, I don't know what you want to call it, some people call it a universal guidance or the law of attraction or whatever it is. I know the law of attraction over the years has been bastardized quite significantly for commercial gain, but there is a universal force around us. And, you know, I've got to say, did the fact that my original therapist cancelled on me, was that all part of the plan? I met Paul at a marketing event, and his character stood out straight away because he was dressed, it was charismatically, if you like. He stood out. He was someone different. And I thought, this is somebody I need to get to know. And that's how I started trading. Paul stood up in front of the class and he said, I'm an online marketer, I'm a digital marketer, but I make the majority of my money in the Forex markets, and I'm going to do a talk today about NLP. It's like, where's this coming from? What's happening here? Okay. And, you know, do you meet these people for a reason? Do you meet these people because you know that they can help you? And, you know, do we sometimes put our lives just temporarily on hold and then go back to it? Or do we need to rewrite new chapters and move forward? You know, and it's... So, you know, that's where we are now. I was going to go through psychotherapy. I knew the process was going to be long. And Paul, because he does psychotherapy, because he does NLP, he will say that, you know, psychotherapy is a long process. Whereas, you know, so the analogy he always gives is you're in a pond and you're drowning or you're kicking, you're trying to keep up. Psychotherapists will say, okay, tell me how you feel. Okay, tell me what's going on. Tell me about your childhood. Okay, and he says NLP. They go, okay, let's get you out of the pond first. There you go. Now you're okay. And that's the analogy he gives. I know a lot of psychotherapists will be nodding their head, going, yeah, whatever. Okay, our process is proven and stuff. But that is the analogy he gives, and I've got to say that the experience that I've gone through, and I had another session with him today. Same sort of thing, profound. That's the only word I can say, profound. And I'm somebody that doesn't give a toss. If I start crying, okay, I'll just cry because it doesn't matter. I don't care. I'm not a girly man, as Arnold Schwarzenegger would say. You know, so let it go, and let the process happen, because it's got to. You know, 52 years old, 53 years old this year, and I look at my potential in life, and I've probably reached about 5% of my potential. You know, when I was, younger, I knew where I was going, and But what do? Do we look forward, or do we just grab all the past and try and bring it forward? And that's what I used to do. I used to go, oh, but look, I was worth all this much, and this is what I used to do, and blah, blah, and who cares? Who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck? The future needs to be rewritten, and that's what's happening right now. And, whether NLP will do it, I don't know. But all I can say is that the experiences of this parts integration And what we did today about going through a timeline and kind of changing that timeline, again, profound because you're almost going, you are tapping into your subconscious. And this is why, if you ever looked at, psychedelic therapy, with psychedelic drugs in a controlled clinical environment, that can, by the same token, it can shorten the process to get to where you want to be, because it allows your conscious and your subconscious mind to talk to each other in a very similar way that NLP does. So those sort of things I'm kind of looking forward to doing, because you've got to, guys, we have to, because what's the alternative? You either live a life of wishing and hoping and retrospective thinking of how you used to be, or you put a rope around your fucking neck. Because let me tell you, that's the reality of a lot of people. Okay? Fortunately not me. But it is in my family. That trait is in my family. So I've got to be mindful of it. Okay? But the way I see it, there is so much good out there. There are so many good people. And everything you want is there, if you want it. And that's the way I see it. And for too long, it's been a case of, what does this guy want? Who's this knobhead? What was he after now? Because that's the way you are. And you seem to sometimes portray that bad feeling onto other people. And, rather than make people feel good and good about themselves and their lives and what they're doing, you make people feel bad. And, I'm consciously aware of doing that over the years, And just because I haven't fulfilled my potential doesn't mean somebody else hasn't fulfilled theirs by what they're doing. Okay? So, yeah, it's an interesting situation to be in. So that's where we are right now. This is the third entry on this Finding John McLauchlan, as I called it. Finding John McLauchlan. And I implore you to do a similar thing. Okay, whether it's a video blog, what caused that? Whether it's a video blog, whether it's articles, whether you're just doing it. The reason I'm doing this publicly is because I need to do it publicly, and I know there is so many people out there in pain, male, female, anybody, okay? And if I can help people, then I'll bloody well do it, okay? Because one of the things about the way I was brought up was that we don't say things in public. We just keep it nice, we do things intelligently, and we don't air our troubles in the public, and that's bollocks, man. If you've got a problem, share it. Okay? And my big problem was, my anchor was my mum. And all the problem, my secure attachment in life was my mum. And when she died, I'm just left like a frigging boat adrift. And I know that a lot of what I was doing just kind of manifested itself. And I adopted a not a different coping mechanism, but a coping mechanism that kind of focused the bad mechanisms that I had as a kid. If a relationship broke up, I'd go see mum. If I was out coppering in the car, come round, have a cup of tea, have a cup of coffee, have a chat. Okay, mum and dad together, great. Okay, but dad was usually at work. Okay, I normally saw my mum at work. Okay, so it was easy to do that. In fact, I was really good at getting lots of tea when I was in the police, as most people know. Okay, yeah, come in. Radio go off. Where are you? Oh, I'm just doing some observations. Okay. Good times, but it's so important when you lose your anchor, when you lose your counsel, that you find mechanisms to cope with that, and healthy mechanisms, with people who want to help, and not lean on those people too much, as I have done. So there we go. we're 2 sessions in with the NLP, and I'm of the opinion, or I'm doing now everything I can, and I love it when people are harsh with me. Okay, when people go, well, actually, you know what, that's a stupid idea. You know what, I love that kind of positive negative. I thrive off it in the right circumstances. Okay, because sometimes people have done that in the past and it's backfired. When this old bad John, okay, and now we've got this accumulation of good John and bad John. You know what? They're getting on really well. They're okay. They're all right. They're safe. They know they're safe. And bad John was the vulnerable side, okay, and he knows he's safe now, okay. And that was one session. I know some people would say, well, that's just because you're vulnerable and you're going through it and you're emotional. But give it 6 months, you're back to your old ways. Okay. No, I don't think so. But time will tell. Time will tell if that's going to happen. But anyway, I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for watching. I think I'm going to do more videos like this rather than the article thing, because I'll be quite honest, when you write articles about, I'm good at writing articles about business. I can write really good stuff, okay, and it flows really well. And this flows really well, okay. I can talk, it flow out of me, okay, and then but being able to put it in a textual context, or in a just writing it down and making sense of it is a lot more difficult for someone to read it, okay. So I'm going to do videos from now on, and I want to keep you updated of what's happening, because it's interesting and it's good for me as well. I think anybody who is going through stressful times, okay, first of all you need to be aware that something needs to change, and then you need to be consciously aware, and then unconsciously aware, because most of us guys, we're not even aware of what the weather's doing most of the time, okay, and it just takes that little bit of emotional intelligence to come to the surface and build on that emotional intelligence and go forward in the right way. Whatever life brings, you've got to deal with it, okay, and make a good life, We'll talk soon.